I found out my sister's fiancé had been cheating for months. I waited until the wedding to expose him. She ran out crying and I felt no regret. My sister Nina and I were close growing up, but she changed after college, started looking down on everyone. When I graduated nursing school, she asked if I was just going to empty bedpans forever. When I bought my first car, she said it was cute that I was trying. When I got engaged to my boyfriend of 4 years, she laughed and said at least someone was desperate enough to settle. Then she met Brandon, investment banker, designer suits, country club membership. He proposed after 6 months with a ring that cost more than my annual salary. Nina made sure everyone knew the exact price. She'd bring it up at family dinners, holding her hand up to the light so the diamond would catch and sparkle. At my engagement party, Nina stood up without being asked and gave a toast about how she was so happy to see me finally getting married, even if it wasn't the fairy tale wedding she was planning. She said some people marry for love and some people marry for security, and both were valid choices. Everyone got quiet. My fiancé squeezed my hand under the table. I was working an ER shift when Brandon came in with his cousin Emma, holding hands, kissing in the waiting room. When he saw me in scrubs behind the nurse's station, his face went white. Started stammering about Emma being an old friend visiting from out of state who wasn't feeling well. I checked them in, smiled, asked what brought them in today. Emma said she had stomach pain. I took her vitals, got her admitted, and watched Brandon sweat through his expensive shirt in the waiting room. I said nothing. For 3 months, I kept quiet. Went to dress fittings where Nina complained that my bridesmaid dress made me look frumpy. Helped address invitations in her pristine handwriting. Listened to her talk about the honeymoon in Bora Bora that Brandon was paying for entirely. Watched Nina plan her perfect day while I smiled and nodded. My mom asked me once if something was wrong, said I seemed distant. I told her I was just stressed from work. Night shifts were brutal. She patted my hand and said I should take better care of myself, that no man wants a wife who looks exhausted all the time. Wedding morning, I volunteered to pick up the programs from the printer. Nina was relieved because she had a hair appointment that couldn't be moved. I told her I'd handle everything. Instead, I stopped at a copy shop 3 blocks from the venue, made one small addition to the seating chart that the coordinator had sent me to proofread. Then I delivered everything to the reception hall an hour before the ceremony. The wedding itself was beautiful. Nina looked stunning in her custom Vera Wang gown. Brandon cried during the vows. My parents sobbed in the front row. The photographer captured every perfect moment. The reception started exactly on schedule. Dinner was plated to perfection. The toasts were heartfelt and funny. Nina's maid of honor talked about their friendship since high school. Brandon's best man made jokes about him finally settling down. The first dance was choreographed and flawless. Then guests started finding their seats for the cake cutting. The seating chart was projected on a massive screen at the front of the ballroom. Elegant calligraphy listed every table and every guest. People mingled and searched for their names. Brandon's family table was near the front, close to the head table where Nina and Brandon sat. Table 6 included Brandon's parents, Richard and Susan, his brother Michael, his aunt and uncle from Connecticut, and Emma Richardson, listed clearly as Brandon's girlfriend of 2 years. The room went silent in sections. First the people at table 6, then the tables around them as guests started reading and whispering. Then the entire ballroom as everyone pulled out their phones to photograph the screen. Nina's face drained of color as she followed everyone's stares. Brandon lunged from the head table toward the laptop, but the coordinator had already printed copies for every single table. Guests were holding them up, pointing, showing their neighbors. Emma stood up from her assigned seat at table 6, staring at Brandon in complete confusion and horror. She had no idea he was getting married today. Thought she was attending his colleague's wedding as his +1. I walked out through the side exit while both women screamed his name.